The word why. What a curious word. The kind of word that can make us cringe, feel defensive, or even distant. But you know, sometimes why is the key that can unlock so much to our lives. Join me as we explore the why with fascinating contributors to the world, those that entertain us, inform us, teach us about life, and if we're lucky, inspire the next in all of us. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger, and welcome to Headroom. Let's go. Well, again, this has been the season of my own selfish interest in what is really moving the world, the people that are in it, those that I care about, those that I don't know yet but would like to get to know, the stories that I think matter, and the stories that I think will matter to all of you. And as part of that effort this year, I'm trying to expand and really give a diverse group of people that I'm interviewing so that one, we don't ever just get stuck on the same sort of content, but two, that we understand that, you know, as human beings, life is complex and there are a lot of things impacting us, some things that motivate us and inspire us, and other things that make us feel more human. And I think all of you know, just I've been paying attention to a lot of AI and the way in which it's impacting my friends and neighbors in their work and or the perceived, you know, sort of things that are maybe scaring them or challenging them. And part of this is also about diving into my sort of past life and working with kids and families and the like across mental health and the work that I did many years ago. And in the spirit of that, I wanted to bring on Jarrod Hoffman. And he is, for those of you know, I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and Jarrod is via Florida. He is now living in Memphis, Tennessee. And Jarrod is a Memphis-based licensed professional counselor, and he works with teens and adults navigating depression, anxiety, and addiction, and what he calls purposelessness, which I want to talk about because I think that could be a theme or a mantra for so many across not only this country, but maybe the world with all the challenges that a lot of people are facing. He came up through Covenant College and youth ministry before pivoting into clinical work, a career arc that suggests someone who was already in the helping business long before he had a license to do it. And you are also a triathlete, right?
Wow. Yes. I dabble. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that is something I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say they've dabbled in being a triathlete. Is that, let's just sort of start there, but is that because you're a glutton for punishment or because you found that you learn more about yourself by pushing yourself?
Yeah. You talk about family of origin versus when you marry into a family. And so I happen to marry into a family that does a little bit of the triathlons. And so, you know, they start small. They're like, ooh, try a half marathon here, try this here. And so I believe last year I attempted my first one. I had done the split one where I only did the run for a half Ironman, had other people who did the other two legs. And so I believe we have one coming up. I have not trained as much because I've got like the remaining hours on my license. Yeah. But you say glutton for punishment, there's a lot of overlap. I actually wrote a blog post on the mental health overlap of triathlons.
Yeah, and what is this about a 91-year-old? Give me more context to that.
Yes, it was my first one. It was an indoor swimming pool, and they let someone go first. He was 91 years old. I don't know if he made it to the end, but I'm guessing he did. It's a tough guy who would be swimming, running, biking. That was the winner of the race for me, somebody who has invested in their health and wellness, so much so that at 91, they are able to, swim, bike, and run a sprint triathlon.
What I love about that, even if it's just sort of as a metaphor for just life, is that I think one of the things that is potentially unsettling is maybe we pivot into your work clinically and the work that you do with teens and families is that, you know, one of the things I think as human beings, and these are my words, not yours, but is I think that we feel good when we have structure, when we have organization to our lives. We have, yes, we bemoan routines at some point, right, during certain phases of our life. And other times we lean into those routines like that old pair of jeans. It's just comfortable, whether or not we like it or we want to be a part of it. It's just something that we know and we can predict. We're entering into a world now that is very unpredictable. I know you've got two young kids. They're a little bit older than yours, but mine are still school age and middle school. And I know when I go to the soccer field or to the basketball court for their sports, it seems like on a regular basis, a parent that is in a different industry each time is sharing something that really has to do with their fear of sort of what is coming or may be coming that might impact their family from a financial perspective. What does it mean for long-term planning? So this unsteadiness which to me ties to that purposelessness, right? Because having purpose gives us a bit of a directive, gives us something that bookends our mornings and our nights. I'm wondering how you're seeing it from your practice and your work. And are you finding that the questions you're being asked, are they becoming, maybe not the word sophisticated, but are they becoming more nuanced in a way that tells you that the people you're working with are really sitting with this lack of security in what they know today will be there tomorrow?
Wow. I'll start with the recent takeaway I had. I did a bike ride. I hesitate to call it a race. It's not really a race, but it's MS 150. It goes from Austin, Texas to College Station. And we hit these hills right outside of Austin in Bastrop. And I was reflecting with my brother-in-law how much I really do fantasize in life that I don't have to hit any uphills. So we're taking these hills and it's like this grind. I mean, you like fall off your bike. My chain fell off once and you sit there on the uphill wishing, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this. But then you get the downhill. For some reason, I kind of think that I wouldn't have to ever go uphill in my life. And so maybe what you're referring to is some of the new technologies even that we're exposed to and families are having to deal with where you go, no, this isn't even worth it. It's too scary. Let's just try to only go downhill from here. When in reality, the uphill is what grows us and strengthens us and prepares us for the next uphill because they're not going away. And honestly, it was really joyful after the uphill to experience a downhill.
It's a great reminder, right? I think it's something that a lot of us grow up with thinking, okay, now this may also be generational too, because I'm still of a generation where we were told that there was a ladder you had to climb, right? This sort of virtuous yet scary and terrifying ladder for your career. And you had to put in the work and do it with sort of a clenched upper lip and just sort of fight your way through until you develop some relevance within that domain and then could venture your opinion in ways that would show leadership. But it is changing. And I'm wondering, to your point, what's going to be the impact when, if more people are like you on that bike ride and the sort of the outset, which is like, I hope I don't have to be, if anything, flat land sounds good. Like, this race should be going through like Omaha or something. Right, the middle of the country in that regard. But if that's the premise, what's going to be the impact when we don't have a choice, and we may have to redefine what it means to climb uphill or not? I mean, when I'm hearing from professionals who are saying to me things like, "Rod, they wiped out 2 departments below me, like just gone." And what actually stuck with me with one individual is this person was sharing with me that colleagues at sort of the same, let's say, income level within this one company, their anxiety was to the point where some of them were actually leaving their positions before the sort of the pink slip might come, because it was less anxiety producing to think about a world where they had to figure it out post job than the fear of what happens tomorrow if they take my job. And that will impact the family unit in so many ways, in the ways in which young people think about their parents, how they lean into what we know or they think we know, because knowledge is being outsourced by so much with AI and technology that looking up to a parent and thinking that they're going to share words of wisdom may take on a different connotation moving forward. How do you think about it professionally in the way in which you work with kids and families? Because when I think back to my work in that, years and years ago, I mean, context is so important. Context of the situation that young person is in or that they're going into, if there's, let's say, divorce is a part of it and we've got 2 different homes. I mean, context is so key to that relationship, that therapeutic relationship.
Let's stick with the bike hill example. I'll tell you that
Yeah,
the number
please.
one thing that they're the disconnect between maybe a teenager and their parent, a young adult and their parent, and vice versa, is because the hills look different and the timing looks different, right? You might have a father who's leaving a company trying to take some control. Instead of being fired or let go, they're going to take some control and leave, have a plan, something like that, is that the hills are at different times potentially for the child and the parent. And so the worst thing that parents will say to their child or vice versa is like, it's not that hard. What are you doing? And it's like, well, yeah, if I'm on the downhill and I'm looking at someone who's struggling, then of course I'm going to say something that's maybe demeaning or belittling when an empathetic response in that moment can be so powerful. Man, I remember what it was like to struggle uphill, and it's tough.
And being able to relay that. right?
Mhm.
In a way that lands as purposeful as having meaning to it. It's so interesting that we're speaking because it takes me back to that old world for me. And what's interesting for people to understand, I think, through training in the mental health world is that, again, my words, not yours, but there's this sort of this experience of losing a sense of opinion that you might have had prior to all the training and schooling so that you can sit within that space and experience that other individual, right? I know play therapy is a part of your history. That was a part of my history. What I loved about play therapy was it's you in that moment with that child, and every variable that's within that environment is sort of grist for the mill, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just really great. Um, is I'm just wondering how, if we're entering in a world where my knowledge is something that is cheaper, in essence, it's less valued because I can get this, I don't need a consultant to come in and sort of build me a strategy. I can go straight to AI or Claude or whatever can help me out in that regard. I'm just wondering how it's going to change the profession that you're in and the way in which you ask questions, the way in which you contemplate things as a facilitator of a conversation that maybe there's a bit of trepidation to explore, right? Because I don't know what the answer is. If anything, I think that mental health is going to be that much more valuable
Yeah.
because people won't be able to go to the previous source to just find an answer, right? Sometimes we think the answer is the end all be all. It represses or shuts down that fear and that anxiety. There's the answer and you move on. That may not be possible. So I'm just curious as to how you're thinking about it, given where you are in your professional track to one, stay up to date, but two, to be cognizant of the types of questions that are probably going to be coming into your office sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I haven't had the AI that I've used to gather information just say in response to a question, "I'm not really sure." And that's it. But in the therapy room or on the couch with your teen or with your significant other, that carries a ton of weight. I don't know. Can you help me understand? You said play therapy, right? There's a lot of data, but the thing that really changes the child is they say the line that children don't change until they realize they don't have to. It's not a gaining of information or knowledge that makes us change. And so, as we're going into a world where knowledge continues to increase and our exposure to it, I am 100% in agreement that it's laughable that the knowledge that I needed to get through my master's is almost irrelevant. I was almost writing today that no one has asked me what grades I got in my master's program. Praise God, they didn't ask me about my bachelor's, but nobody's asked me that. Nobody's asked me anything really relevant to my education. They care about if I'm making eye contact with their child
That's right.
or how I
The
greet
connection.
them, the connection. Yes. You know, the interesting thing too, I would add to the whole chat GPT, the AI pornography, gambling addiction is we do that in isolation. And therapy, group therapy, parenting your child happens, that power happens when it's connection, not isolation.
Yeah, and you know what? Talking about group therapy, I mean, like in my background years ago, I was a part of leading a group of sex offenders, and that was an eye-opening experience for me because a lot of they were basically teenagers that were offenders and they
Mhm.
were also victims. And so I take great responsibility in the experience that I had because of those stories and that experience within that context of that group. But what I didn't have to battle back then is I didn't have to battle an AI chatbot that might be another source of information or story capture from that individual that would be outside the therapeutic realm and what that might do or add to or sort of take away from the power of a sort of, I would say, healthy therapeutic experience that, you and your professional colleagues are going to be either dealing with soon or you already are because I mean the data on what people are using like a chat GPT or these chatbots for is I put on my parent hat, it gets a bit terrifying to think that these young people are being led to sadly suicide or self-harm, acts of self-harm from these recommendations or the lack of boundaries with regards to conversations they're having with these artificial neural networks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think the connection is so important. The connection, if we're talking about a parent and their child, is for the next 60 years. You might use ChatGPT, you might use Claude, there might be something else that arrives, but the parent relationship is going to persist, whether that's a healthy or an unhealthy one.
It's gonna be a part of it. It's gonna be a part of it. Do you think that this is gonna be something where, and have you seen this already, especially with teenagers, where they're utilizing, let's say, AI as like filler or like it's as a substitute for the pause in a relationship, right? Like, wow, I used to talk to my dad about this, but we're not on speaking terms or we're sort of going through a rough patch. So, well, what am I substituting in? I'm substituting in a chatbot. There's some pretty famous cases of this, and the majority of people using it are these teenagers and young adults that are seeking out this kind of counsel, you
Yeah,
know?
you use it for school initially, an assignment, but eventually you're using it for companionship of some sort.
And
We
why? Because
obviously
the tone, right? The tone of these
Oh, yeah.
chatbots is very encouraging. It's like, "Oh, Jared, that was a fantastic idea," you know? And it's
Brilliant thought.
doesn't it say something? I don't know, but to me, it says something about our society where if it's that easy to build a connection through something that's artificial, it tells me we're not doing terribly well at connecting with people in some authentic way where they feel
Yes.
valued, even by the simplest exchanges.
Wow. That's a scary thought. You think about how much more affirmed and encouraged you are by something that can't think than by flesh and blood who sees you and knows you. They're certainly using it, and it can obviously be used badly. Appreciate Andy Crouch's description. It was a while back about technology not being neutral, but being good and bad at the same time. And there's different weights of what's good and bad. And we obviously have some great examples of what ChatGPT can do, and we also have some really bad examples. And so just like any technology, it's going to take time to navigate it. But, if there's a takeaway in this moment, it's parents think about the weight of an encouraging word and what that can do for your child.
Tell me a little bit about, let's sort of go a little bit more granular with your work with teens. I'm curious from your perspective, just what you're hearing from them, some of the challenges, and sort of connecting to what we've been talking about. I'm hearing this chatter, whether it's people that I know or I'm watching interviews and stories and doing some research on, like what happens when a young person, let's say a typical, I don't even know what that is anymore, but like let's say a typical teen who potentially would be on a college track. If they start to say, I don't know, is college going to be the same like it was for you, dad or mom? I don't know if I want that. I think there's going to be a lot of changes to higher education.
Hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is because of your notion of purposelessness, right?
Yeah.
And how that might play out earlier in a therapeutic relationship because that sort of cliff or however they want to think about it is coming much sooner. When I was growing up, it's like, oh, you don't have to worry about your major until your junior year of college.
Yes.
You can kind of slowly work through it, get a sense of yourself as you're growing and maturing socially and intellectually, and then maybe make your choices. And even then, you still can pivot. They're being robbed of that opportunity to a large degree. Tell me about these
Yes.
conversations, obviously with a deference to protection of people's identities and those sorts of things, but generalities about conversations with teens
Yeah.
for you.
I think that is one of the main things that I see. We talk about anxiety and depression. Anxiety is fear about the future. Depression is sadness about maybe even the past, sadness about limited opportunity. If I'm a teen boy and my parents have said that this is what's going to happen in terms of where the direction of my life goes, that's pretty purposeless. I have to do this thing that's the dream or the expectation of someone else. And often the teens come in here and they're not sure what to do and they end up doing what their parents have kind of told them or expressed would be helpful for them because parents are generally wiser than their teen son. At the same time, it can be very depressing and cause a lot of anxiety to have the weight of this person's expectation. College is the best example, is like we just assume that they should go to college. And obviously college can be really helpful for humans. Higher education is important. It's changing, so we'll see. I saw the headline that you probably saw where it's like, this is the first wave of people who have gotten a degree because of ChatGPT, and they actually didn't come out any different. We talk about an exchange. I'm paying for this degree versus I'm paying to be changed in my identity.
Yeah, good
So
point.
filter down, you got a ninth grader who has to do extracurriculars and get A's on every test so that they can get into this college that they don't want to go to and get a degree that might not actually change them in a field that they don't want to be in.
That might go away in 3 years,
That might completely change. Yes.
right?
Yes, that could be irrelevant.
That's right.
That That's heavy for a
It's
teen to
really
bear.
heavy. And do they have the skill set to be able to break that down and settle themselves internally and say, okay, I can only really sort of deal with what's present in my path and I guess plan a little bit for the future. But that takes age, that takes experience and wisdom, right? And having a good support system. I want to close with this question, and then I want people to be able to find you too, because I think it's important. One, I love that you are you've got young children. I just think having sort of fresh perspectives, especially from the parenting element in what you're doing, I think is so key to be sort of living it in real time yourself in that regard. What have you learned about yourself in working with teenagers? I always think it's fascinating how they can put up a mirror to things that we either hide very deep in our own internal closets, right? Or that are quite close to us and we just haven't shared.
Yeah, I'm a rule follower. I'm wrestling with that in my own origin story. My
Yeah,
parents were divorced when I was 10. I saw porn for the first time at 11. I didn't see a counselor until I was 25. And so for decades, I've been taught, I've kind of believed that if I follow the rules, then I will be accepted and valued. And I put that on the people in my when I'm not doing my own work in my counseling room. We have to follow the rules. We have to make progress. We have to do all these things. It's like hold the horses. This might be the one relationship that they have that they don't have to have
that's right.
an expectation to follow the rules. So clients don't listen to this when they put sand in here and they they put anything in Play-Doh. Good Lord. I'm like,
They do.
settle down. I can just get new Play-Doh. That one really messes with me. With my own daughter, we're biking and she drops her shoe and I immediately go, well, I told you that you shouldn't have dropped the shoe. It's like she's one.
Yeah,
She
she
wasn't
doesn't
listening.
know.
We're just going to go we pick it up or we get a new shoe.
That's right.
It's okay.
It reminds me the one story. So I remember it. I don't know if it was alarm. It was just illuminating for me when I worked with teens that had been through the social workers and orphans. I mean, just like kids that didn't have a real shot in a lot of ways. They weren't given a lot of resources, or these were kids who were identified as they were quote the bad kids or the struggling kids. Right? These are words that I was told, not that I was using. But I would get these kids that would be like tatted up and they just looked straight out of a movie, right? Like stay out of the way, bully, whatever it is. You know what these kids, Jared, would want to do with me? They'd want to play board games and board games that were board games from when kids were like 7. And
Yes.
it was that whole notion of like time is suspended when I'm here with you and I don't have to act or respond to my environment in a way that is protectionist in nature and I can just be and share this oxygen. That to me is so powerful. And it's the kind of thing you can't be taught through a textbook or a lecture or clinical hours. You just have to sit in that and understand what that is as two humans. So I think you're in a really powerful spot to be able to make a difference in leveraging your own story as you do quite publicly, which I applaud you for, because we need to feel more human. And that's only going to come through people that trust enough in their own story to be able to convey that to those that they work with. So I think that's really great for everybody involved in that manner. And Memphis is lucky as a community to have you. Where can people find you and get connected?
Yeah, jarrodhoffman.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. I have a quiz that's meant to figure out, does my teen need therapy? That's what it's called. Does my teen need therapy? And I'm on LinkedIn as well. Those are the places people can find me.
Wonderful. Well, continued success. Maybe I'll bump into you at a soccer tournament here when I'm always going to Memphis or Knoxville like it was last weekend for soccer tournaments. But continued success, and I appreciate you going in and diving into some of these topics with us. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Rod.
I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger. Thanks for taking the plunge into Headroom, where we uncover the why behind the what and who impacting our lives. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger, and this is Headroom.